It's 2:59. We're going to get ready. I'm going to get the big okay from you when you're ready up the back. And we're online. Thank you. Thank you to everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on behalf of the rural city of Wangaratta to our special council meeting. Just a couple of points I need to bring forward. That live streaming. This public meeting is being recorded to improve access to the meeting for our community. The records will be published and will be retained by Council in accordance with its legal obligations. If you submitted a question, your name and question will be recorded. I'd wish to begin by acknowledging the Bangarang as our original inhabitants on whose country we are gathered, pay our respects to their elders past, present and future, and extend a respect to any other First Nation people watching us here today. Just back to our live streaming too, I also point out that we will be constantly live streaming. If it breaks, we will break until the live stream is returned. Please stand for the opening prayer. Almighty God, we humbly ask Thee to bless and guide this council in its deliberations so that we may truly preserve the welfare of the people whom we serve. Amen. Firstly, thank you to our corporate management team and to our councillors for attending this special meeting prior to the end of the financial year. I'd like to welcome Marcus Goonan, who is filling in for Alan Clark, and Penny Hargraves, who is filling in for Jamie Chubb. Thank you guys for attending. There are no conflicts of interest, councillors, on any issues that we're going to raise here that you are voting on tonight. Take that as a no. So I'll go straight to presentations of reports, and I'll hand it over to Sarah, Corporate Services, for our proposed governance policies.
Thank you, Mayor Rees. So item 7.1, proposed governance policies. The Victorian Government has recently passed the new Local Government Act. This report is the first of what will be many that enable Council to put the correct policies and procedures in place to ensure we meet the requirements of the new Act and that we are compliant with those. So the new and revised policies included in this report are the governance rules, the Audit and Risk Committee Charter, Council Expenses Policy, Councillor Support Policy and the Public Transparency Policy. And this report is presented to Council to approve the exhibition of those proposed new and revised governance policies for a period of 4 weeks arising from the introduction of the new Local Government Act. Thank you.
There are no questions from the gallery, so can I have someone to move that motion put forward? Thank you, Councillor Fitzpatrick. And a seconder? Councillor Mark Curry. Would any councillor like to speak on the governance policy put forward? Take that as a no. I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you, Sarah. 7.2, the Council Budget Report 2021.
Thank you. So this report is presented to Council to consider adopting the 2020-21 budget, which is in attachment 1. And this follows a period of public exhibition of the draft budget. Council received 18 public submissions on the budget and a number of officer submissions, and the budget has been updated in response to those. The main updates made to the budget since it went out for public exhibition are inclusion of the impact of COVID on Council's revenues and financial position, such as loss of revenue from certain services that need to still remain closed. Inclusion of funding for a community support package, which has been designed to support businesses and community in their recovery from both COVID and the bushfires. And that includes a new community recovery grants programme worth over $370,000. Inclusion of funding changes in response to the public submissions which are listed in the recommendation. And also in addition to that $15,000 which has been allocated for design and works for a new mountain bike track. Inclusion of some significant grant funding attracted through council advocacy work, a change to the depreciation expense which is explained in the report, and a further $5 increase on recycling bin changes arising as a result of significant challenges in the waste sector. The budget presented today contains overall an operating surplus of $6.061 million, capital works expenditure of $29.876 million, and total new borrowing still of $18.291 million. Overall, that represents a favourable change to the draft budget that went out for public exhibition. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. There is a question. Well, let me state there was a statement from Brian Fox, and out of the statement that Brian has put to Council, we've derived 2 questions from it. The first question is that he suggests that councillors wait 2 more months before adopting the budget. And the question 2 asks if the budget can be trimmed anywhere, and specifically referenced to the ICT budget. So I'll just talk over a few points. In relation to question 1, it is challenging to estimate the impact of COVID-19, and the delay in adopting the budget for another 60 days is unlikely to alleviate this challenge. There will undoubtedly be changes to JobKeeper and JobSeeker along the way, with a range of new state and federal support and assistance packages coming in the next 6 months. And more significantly, the pandemic situation will continue to evolve and change. Deferring the adoption of the budget is not thought to assist Council's financial position. Rather, Council's management team has implemented since March 2020 a finance steering committee that reviews and approves changes to income and expenditure on a weekly basis. This provides a strong focus on cash flow, forecasting, and ensures weekly reporting of changes, conditions due to this COVID-19. This allows Council the best opportunity to respond to the evolving pandemic and economic changes. 2, the resolution includes a requirement for the quarterly budget reporting to provide an update on material variations from the COVID-19 estimates in the budget. Council approval will be required before larger value aspects of the 2020 and 21 budget can be implemented, and this will allow for due consideration of COVID-19 and will allow for works to be paused or cancelled if necessary. This includes the computers and technology expenditure identified by Brian's question and a range of other new capital works projects. So thank you for that. Can I have a mover of this? Councillor Fuller to move. Can I have a seconder of the...
Actually, can I move an amendment to point 7 of this recommendation, please?
Certainly, Councillor
And
Fuller.
add
Please
that,
read.
in addition to the quarterly reporting, that the CEO is to report to councillors of any significant variations as they become apparent to the organisation as required. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fuller. Can I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Fitzpatrick. Would councillors like to talk on the budget, including this new and this amendment in the report? Councillor Bustle, would you like to report first?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of things I'd like to mention about the budget. Since 2015, the money spent on the gravel resheeting of the roads has more than doubled, and I think for rural communities that's very, very important. I travel the rural roads all the time. In the past, going back not so many years, it's the road's been absolutely shocking, and I'd have to say now that this council, how it's looking after its assets, the gravel roads are probably the best they've ever been in my lifetime. So I'm very proud of that. Also, it's really important to see $125,000 in the budget for the Millwall infrastructure plan. And the other thing that in times like this year, I see people collecting wood on the rural roads almost every day. And for $22 you get 2 cubic metres of wood, which will last about 2 months, and there's no change in this budget to the cost of that permit. So I think that's very, very good, Mr. Mayor. And adopting this budget's a bit like putting the rudder on a boat, so I think it's a must that we adopt this budget now so that we can steer the boat correctly. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bussell. Councillor Benn, did you have anything to say on the budget?
Well, the only thing I'd like to reiterate a little bit what Councillor Bussell said in relating to the resheeting of roads, and as you're probably all aware, agriculture is one of the essential services we need, and I think even though it's 1.8 million, and I'm prepared to support it at this year, it's a hold on in forward planning. We're going to make sure, or have to make sure, that the infrastructure is kept up to date, because we can't have an essential services keep having to put up with some of the infrastructure that we have in the rural areas. And I don't just mean our municipality. I suppose it's a broader statement to other governances in this country in relation to especially the agriculture and the rural roads, because we know we need 2.4 million to resheet every road 10 years, so we're still 600,000 short of that moving forward. And I just put that out there, that moving forward we're going to have to make sure that's kept up to speed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Benn. Councillor Curry.
I was just going to say that this will be effectively the last budget that we pass as a group, or the current group. And that looking and thinking about the past 4 years, the objectives that we've set out, I think we've done actually quite a good job at spreading, money, I guess, around the whole area within the sub-towns and within Wangaratta. There's been a lot of development within Wangaratta. There's been a lot of progress within it. There are some stuff there that is just fantastic for Wangaratta, and the team as a whole has been always progressive in its insight about where to lead Wangaratta. Backing track though, about Brian Fox's comments about not passing the budget for 2 months, I sort of think about the CEO, and when we get these type of questions and people don't necessarily think about the impacts around budgets and things like that, this is a guiding document to tell the council what they can and can't do. If we effectively turn around and don't pass the budget, then what are we telling the council or the CEO to actually do? So we have a wage increase coming up. There's a whole heap of logical stuff that just can't happen because there's no authorisation from the councillors to actually progress it. So I think when people are and they fire off the hip about general comments, they don't actually think about the overall impact of what the organisation has to go through to even get to this point. So I guess in insight, we've done a lot of good work, and the vision from the outside, I guess, of the organisation is that we probably don't do much, but I don't think they see the hundreds of hours that the teams put in here to develop budgets and the amount of time that councillors go over documents and review them. And we often try and do the best that we can. We've made some good decisions. We've probably made some bad decisions across the time, but we've certainly learned from them and moved forward. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Curry. Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm afraid my position has not changed from that of the meeting of the 5th of May, where the draft budget was adopted. Following the trends of the economic data put out by government, I make the following analysis. Given it is now estimated there will be 1.65 million receiving job seeker payments in July, my calculations indicate that Wangaratta, with a workforce of 18,000, can expect some 15% of our workforce receiving $1,500 per month until September. 2,700 recipients equates to 4.05 million being injected into Wangaratta's economy each month. What will happen following this? A statement I made back in early May was that we could expect revenue to drop by 15 to 20%. These figures highlight this dilemma. I was interested to read an article from The Age dated the 16th of June, where regional cities are staring at budget shortfalls. Ballarat planning to borrow 17 million to fund its way out of the crisis. Geelong forecasting an $8 million deficit. Warrnambool, which is similar in size to Wangaratta, estimates a drop of 8 million in revenue over the coming financial year. Our mayor is quoted as saying that low interest rates meant it was a good time to borrow money. Debt is cheap and our community is growing that fast that we need to spend money on infrastructure. But there is no mention of what sort of a drop in revenue Wangaratta may experience. It is conceivable that come October 24, we could see 7 new councillors sitting around this table. This budget that you are going to adopt tonight, without my support, calls for borrowing an additional $18.29 million. At the 30th of June 2021, when this budget year finishes, the new council will have a debt of $34.485 million. General rates are only budgeted to provide $28.2 million. What I think that has been forgotten is that come September, when the job seeker payments cease, our income from rates will have a drop of between 15 and 20%. A quarter of our rates generate approximately $7 million, and even being conservative, a 15% drop would see revenue plummet by over $1 million. I find it hard to believe that officers cannot believe that we are seeing a fake economy in Wangaratta. The state government has committed some $2.8 billion to a community infrastructure stimulus program. Should we be successful in our application to this fund, we're going to have to find our share, which would amount to another $1 million that we would need to find. When this council was elected in 2016, expenditure on capital works was really depressed. A conscious decision was made by the present council that we needed to spend big on making up ground. This has happened, but now's the time to pull in our horns and be sensible about what debt we leave for the new broom. Should I still be a councillor come October, I will fight tooth and nail to not apply for a special order to increase the council's average rate cap for the 2022-23 year to 5% for that year. In closing, whilst I commend the officers for their diligence in preparing this budget, it is not one that I have approved of, as I do not believe consideration has been given to the full effects of COVID-19, which appears to be increasing rather than being contained. Are you aware that new car sales have dropped 50% in both April and May? Retailers are just hanging on. Even health products at pharmacies have seen a drop in May in excess of 21% in sales, with the filling of prescriptions down 15%. Do the council have a responsibility in employment within the municipality? Mr Mayor, I believe this council at recommendation 7 in this agenda needs to have a monthly report of financial impacts, which has now gone into the budget. Quarterly reports will see the horse well and truly bolted. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. When COVID-19 restrictions first began to be introduced, Council made the commitment that our decision-making would be based around helping those most in need. The budget allows us to put in place Council's second community assistance package, which will continue to help those in need and to stimulate our economy. These measures are a $372,000 business and community recovery grants program, reducing fees and waiving several fees and charges for local businesses. And the most significant measure, which continues from our first round, is encouraging access to Council's financial hardship policy. The policy allows people having difficulty paying their rates to be put on flexible payment plan, which then relieves the pressure of fearing that you'll be charged penalty interest or late payments. To date, just over 35 people have applied for this, but we now know there are more out there, and our message is clear. If you're facing financial difficulty, contact us as soon as possible and put this plan into place. The budget includes several other measures that I know will help our community recover. Our major capital works project to be completed this financial year will provide jobs and economic growth. The completion of the aquatics project we know will attract major events and more visitation. Likewise, the railway precinct and our Quest apartments that has been attracted during this time of our railway precinct master plans being done and will continue to attract more private investment. Our team is working hard to secure government money for shovel-ready projects, and it shows the work we have done over the years with planning, infrastructure plans, township plans and associated master plans and scoping work is now paying off in attracting funding. Overall, I too can fudge figures to make things look good or bad. I'll state that talking to a real estate agent just 2 days ago, that since the government stimulus package of an extra $25,000 for first home buyers, they've sold 42 blocks in 3 weeks, with timelines put on the building of those properties. So there is a major stimulus package that will be out in the private sector. Overall, what our community knows is that Council is doing everything possible to help our community through this time. We know it isn't easy for many right now, and that'll be a long road ahead before we feel normal again. But we will get through it, and Council will be here every step of the way. Council is flexible, and we will move and make the right moves to help the community here in Wangaratta. Thank you. Councillor Fuller, would you like to end off, or Councillor Fitzpatrick, anything from you? No. Councillor Fuller.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. In closing, I just want to echo Councillor Curry and Councillor Clark in thanking the CEO and staff for the process that's been undertaken for the budget. It is slightly difficult, being that we had some unknown crystal balling that we had to do around COVID and the ramifications there, but I have no doubt that both staff and councillors will be diligently watching for the impacts of ongoing COVID ramifications on a more frequent basis. Thank you.
No further questions. I'll put I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour of accepting the budget? The budget is carried. Thank you. The motion is carried. Certainly, Councillor Clark. Councillor Clark voting against the budget. Noted. Thank you. 7.3, Council Plan 2017. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you. So this report is presented to Council to adopt the Council Plan 2017 to 2021-2020 revision, and this will be the last revision under these current councillors. There are just a small number of changes to this Council Plan, but I think important. So the main change, as mentioned by the Mayor just now, is the introduction of the new 2020-21 Community Support Package, which contains financial assistance measures valued at $484,000. So as mentioned previously, that includes the creation of a new Business and Community Recovery Grants Programme worth $372,000, a 50% reduction on business premises registration fees for businesses such as cafes, restaurants and beauty salons to help them adjust as to how they operate under COVID. Waiving upcoming renewal fees for caravan parks, waiving fees for footpath trading permits, again, to assist people with permits for things such as signage and outdoor dining, which is now increasingly important to meet COVID restrictions. A 50% reduction in building and planning permit fees for community groups, and no ground fees for sporting clubs until the 1st of October 2020. Further to that, the assistance continues for the community and those having difficulty paying their rates. So everyone will continue to be offered access to Council's financial hardship policy. Interest will not be charged again for late rate payments until the 30th of September, so we're extending that for a further quarter. And really the main message is that we encourage those who need this financial assistance to contact Council's customer service team as soon as possible to put a flexible payment plan in place. The other two changes include inclusion of the delivery of a roadside weed and pest management programmes following the award to Council of a grant for $696,900 and amendments to the strategic resource plan to reflect the changes made to the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. There's no questions from the public, so can I have a mover of that? Councillor Fitzpatrick, a seconder. Councillor Mark Curry, who would like to speak on that mover, or seconder like to talk on that, the mover?
I just want to echo Sarah and tell our community members to reach out with those flexible payment plans. They are there, so please speak up and seek out and ask to get those payment plans ready. I also want to thank the staff. This is a really good document for us as councillors to really reflect, and for us that's guiding us on the strategic developments and direction of council, but also it's good for the community to reflect and see what we're up to and what we've done annually. It's a great resource and it's a great way to advocate, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fitzpatrick. Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I might be old and feeble, but there's nothing wrong with what sits inside me, even though my early life was spent in a poorer suburb in Melbourne. I previously remarked that in Wangaratta in the 2030 plan, some 30% of our population will be aged 65 plus. However, in my reading of the Council Plan 2017-2021 revised, 2020, I've read the document twice, from front to back, and the word aged appears once in the whole document. This is on page 21, our non-negotiables, where it mentions our most vulnerable, including older people, people with mental health challenges and people with a disability. I made the point before that in 1999, Council demolished the Senior Citizens building to build a car park and a promise to relocate them. That's 20 years ago, councillors, and they are still operating from the most inadequate premises that Council are paying rental on. I did hear that there was some sort of a plan to be ready for Council consideration in August this year, but I may ask, what is the use of having a suggestion if there's not a budgeted sum to achieve any change in our forward planning? In this document on page 15, our vision in 2028, whether you stay for a day or a lifetime, it feels like home. Does this mean that lifetime ceases to exist at a very young age? On page 4 of the document, key projects for 2017-21, I would suggest you read the projects carefully. Not one project shown on that page mentions anything for the aged. Officers come and go, they can pick up their bags and depart for greener pastures, but most of us will spend a great part of our life in this municipality. We previously enjoyed a swimming pool in Urunga, which was used by all the community, young and old alike. Our administrators saw fit to demolish it, and what has been built in its place at a cost exceeding $1.5 million is all for young people, except for an off-leash dog park that may be of some benefit to the elderly, provided they can walk to it. In 2020-21, we're spending another $1 million of our own revenue on the construction of a play space in our Apex Park. Page 6 of the document states the development of Apex Park with the construction of a regionally significant play space is one of the new incentives in the budget and council plan. The play space will meet the social and recreation needs of a wide age group, ranging from equipment for young children and their parents to a park hour element for older children and adults. I wonder how many of our aged and elderly citizens will use this facility and how many times it will be subject to flooding that makes it unusable. Mr Mayor, I'm sorry, but this document talks in many parts about the community with kindergartens, schools and the opportunity to expand education are just a few of the statements, but nothing about what we need to do for our elderly citizens. The federal government is spending billions on programs to keep people like myself in their own homes as long as possible, as they realise that this is cheaper than providing money to nursing homes. Local government, which we keep hearing, is closest to the people. In my opinion, it has no interest in supporting those who have got to retirement age. Mr Mayor, the elderly citizens meet every day of the week in rented premises with sometimes in excess of 50 participants. I just hope the new council, when preparing the council plan, pay more attention to our older population. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Anybody else like to speak on the council plan? Okay, I will then. It's a good council plan, and I agree with Councillor Clark in relation to the senior citizens. However, we can't be branded for the past of what previous councils took down and promised to replace. It's not our doing. However, I believe a senior citizens area, certainly better than the one they have, the council is paying for. We do, however, have other facilities that senior citizens do use and thousands of people use. We have our Visitor Information Centre, we have our WISAC facility, we have our Performing Arts Centre. We have our art gallery, we have the libraries and all the parts, etc., that are also paid by council that are for all people to use, not just young. We are spending money for the youth because we need the youth here to continue on to help to look after the old when we get there. Without a youth coming through, they will leave, and we won't have an older population because they won't be here. Wangaratta will fold. I do agree, we do need to do something for our elderly citizens to keep them here and to keep looking after them and keep their mental health well-being, but we can't keep blaming us for the sins of a previous council. Thank you. Councillor Curry.
I too agree that, we should be looking after our aged citizens. But if you really think about everything that we've done, and you talk about a lot for the youth, I think if you really string that out, we've done it for the community as a whole, not for any specific age group. We're trying to develop the town to be attractive to a whole range. If you think about all the money that we've spent on sporting and so forth, that's for the community to be engaged no matter what age, for the youth people to get involved with future coming on, but also for the age for entertainment to go down and be part of a group. And there's more to it than just focusing on the youth. It is the strategies that we've been putting forward is for a community, not for an age group.
Thank you, Councillor Curry. Councillor Fitzpatrick, would you like to end off? Nope. Well, thank you, everybody. I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. The motion is carried. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that comes to a close of our meeting here today. Thank you to all our councillors and input by councillors. Thank you to our corporate management team and to Jess and Rebecca and all people helping out in this special council meeting. So thank you. Have a good day and happy new financial year. Thank you.